Excited to have you back on the podcast. We have Shayla K joining us here on the Live and Amplified Indie Fusion podcast. How's everything been going? You've been really busy.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. I'm excited to have you back on. Just kind of a refresh for everyone because last time we had you on was during our Pan Can fundraiser, and so we kind of brushed over a lot of topics, but didn't get to kind of go into too much detail on anything. You're based out of Australia. Kind of give us your background a little bit.
So yeah, my name's Shayla Kay. I'm 23 and I'm from Australia. I released my debut album in February and then had my album launch in April. So it's just been a big, exciting year for me music wise. Yeah.
Nice. And so growing up in Australia, you're born around, we'll say around Sydney. We won't give out the exact location, but what
Yeah.
growing up in that part of the world, in that part of the country, what was the like music scene like growing up? Were you actively involved? Is this kind of something new for you?
Well, I started doing gigs like properly around 15, so for about 8 years now. But did I just more did like singing competitions and stuff when I was younger, so I didn't do like the full on like performing and all that. But yeah, the music scene around here is really good.
Nice. Now, the singing you were doing when you were younger, was that like all school involved stuff, or was that stuff you were doing outside of school?
Oh, it was more, yeah, with my singing, like singing lessons and everything.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of the competitions, and you like they call them a Stedfords, and you just go through that. So that was like my earlier on music experience, and then now I'm doing my own stuff, and yeah.
Nice. When did you kind of decide to make that transition from doing the more, we'll call it like traditional upbringing in music because you're doing like the singing lessons and competitions and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and then kind of transitioning into your own stuff? When did you kind of
Yeah,
decide to
well,
make that decision?
well, I picked up the guitar, I think, when I was, I think, 14. And then I started writing songs. Well, I was always writing songs from a young age, but once you get the guitar, you can write them properly, like they've, got an actual structure rather
Mhm.
than just a bit of, a cappella singing. And then once I did that, I started to feel like I could do something more with it, and make my own music. And then I started doing gigs like not long after that. So it just all sort of happened that way.
Nice. And during this time, like who were you listening to for like inspiration? Like who were some of your musical inspirations?
Well, from a young age, it was Taylor Swift, and then I sort of went more into the R&B, like sort of genre, and like Tori Kelly, Alicia Keys, like those sorts of people, and they, you know, brought me to that genre, and yeah,
Nice, nice, nice. So you kind of have an eclect, like a similar, um, there's some similarities across the board, but it's kind of eclectic with it being more female singers, but like from country to country pop to R&B. Is that kind of fair?
yeah, R&B, soul, all that, and I do like Prince as well. I only got into him a few years ago, and I really like him as well. And yeah, just I listen to a lot of different ones, but R&B, soul is the music I do. But I
Yeah.
pretty much like most music though.
Nice. How did you, obviously, Prince has been gone for some years now. How did you kind of come across Prince? How did you, yeah.
Yeah, I heard him on the radio, and I think I asked mum and dad. I was like, "What's this?" Like a few years ago, and they told me. And then I went onto Spotify and because I always knew who Prince was, but I just didn't
Mhm.
know his music,
Yeah.
besides the very popular ones. But then I started to listen to, not like just the main ones and other ones, and then I thought, yeah, it was really cool, and yeah, I wished I'd discovered him earlier, but
Yeah. Right. He was really talented music. So where I grew up was about 8 hours from where he grew up or where he
Oh,
was like from. So his music was kind of always present.
oh,
Um,
that's so cool.
just because he was kind of not low because 8 hours away isn't really local, but it like he was in the region of where we live. So he was
Oh,
Prince
that's
was
really
always
cool.
yeah.
That's
Uh
awesome.
yeah. So growing up around Sydney, you said that the scene was pretty. When did you kind of discover like music on an independent level? Were you going to like shows at a younger age, or was that not until you started getting into playing shows?
Oh, well, my dad actually, is a drummer, so
Okay.
from pretty sure, like, from 6 months old or something like that, I was going to, his performances and his shows and everything, and there's actually because he does, like, more heavy metal music,
Mhm.
and there's actually a story where I was at one of his shows and I fell asleep, so I've just kind of always been there, been a part of my life since I was a baby, so
Nice.
yeah.
Now, had you done it in this generation, that would you would have been memed up and viral on Instagram like crazy. Like
I know, yeah, had someone have videoed me falling asleep, yeah, it would have been a viral video.
it's like when your daughter's not impressed by your music or something, like it, I could just see kind of see it now. It would have been
Yeah,
hilarious.
I just thought it was peaceful. And which is funny because it's like it's not really the music you go to sleep to, but
Right.
I was loving it, so I just fell asleep.
Now, was there a world that you could have gone into like more heavy metal type stuff, or was that just never your vibe?
Oh, well, I do some songs. Like some of the songs on my album have a sort of rockier tone, but it's
Mhm.
never really gone to like heavy metal, just more
Yeah.
like, like with a bit of with more like electric guitar and drums, but yeah,
Mhm.
never gone into the screaming vibe. Not really me as a singer, but I love it though, but it's just not my thing for me
Gotcha.
to do. Yeah.
Gotcha. So it was more of something you enjoyed listening to, not something that you were ever interested in pursuing.
Yeah. Well, because
Right.
I mean, because no one does all the genres. Like you can
Mm.
appreciate all of them, but you're never gonna really do every single genre. So,
Yeah,
but I appreciate all of them though.
for sure, for sure. So let's jump into your new album. You just dropped your debut album this year. How's it
Yeah.
feel for it to kind of be out and it
Oh,
to be doing its thing?
oh, so exciting! It was, yeah, because since I was, I think about 8 or 9, I've been, dreaming of it. So when it was finally out, it was kind of like you think, well, what now? It's like you're waiting all that time, and then it happens, and you're like, what now? But yeah, it was really awesome to finally get it out for sure.
Mhm. It's so funny you say, or you were thinking like, what now? It's like, no, now is when the work really starts because
That is true.
you spent all this time and money on the project. Now you got to go promote the heck out of it because yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Definitely.
is that something that you weren't quite expecting like when you were releasing, or were you kind of prepared to know that like, okay, this album's releasing, now is when we really go to work?
Yeah, well, because I've released a couple singles before, I
Mm.
knew how it was to promote them. So I always imagined that it would be even more so since
Yeah.
there's more songs to promote. So yeah, I always thought there'd be a big promotion process for sure.
Nice. And I love the fact that you put out a full album, like just straight away. Like you went through like a what would be considered like a proper release strategy where you released a couple of singles and then you release like the full project. That's kind of a what I consider a proper release strategy or a vintage release strategy. Um,
Yeah.
because you see nowadays, not a lot of musicians are going that direction. They're kind of staying singles, like they probably have a full project like ready to go, but they just kind of release it out as singles, which there's nothing wrong with that.
I
But
feel like
it's
it's because it's easier to get attention, like, per song rather than
Mhm.
as a big project. That's, like, one thing I've noticed. Like, whereas if it's individual, you feel like they get their own life individually.
Yep,
So but
absolutely.
yeah, I do. Oh, what'd you say? Sorry?
No, I just said absolutely. Keep going. You're good.
Yeah, but, it's good to put an album out though because I always growing up, all the artists I liked, it was so exciting when they, do an album and, it was just yeah, I like that, yeah.
Nice. So the name of the album is Purple Walls, which we talked a little bit about during the fundraiser because you were kind of in the back a little bit of, I think you were just finalizing it in November. Would you have been finalizing the album, or was it like ready to
Oh,
go
yeah.
though?
I'd put the single out, the song called Purple Walls, but I think I'd had my last recording session that month, so it was just, like, getting them all mixed and produced at that point, yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So with what's kind of the story behind the whole album? How long have you been working on it?
So I pretty much have a song from each year. From then there's like the first song is when I was 14, which is
Mhm.
the growing up one. And then the last one I wrote was Purple Walls, which I wrote at 21. So it was just like sort of a story just of my teen years slash early 20s. And it just kind of ended up flowing in that way. And all the songs went together. So it was just a little chapter of my life at each age, sort of thing like that. And yeah.
Nice. So it's almost like a diary. Is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah, well, it definitely. I feel like it was a little caption of what that year was like, and yeah.
Nice. That's really cool. And so you when did you say you started writing for this project?
It was when I was 14, so it was
Okay.
2015. So
Okay.
yeah, so
Gotcha.
a little while
Gotcha.
ago now.
Gotcha. And did as you were kind of putting this project together, did you kind of notice the evolution of your writing style from obviously from being 14 to now?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
definitely. I could notice the change and the evolution of songwriting. Yeah, because definitely because the more you write songs, the better you become at it. So it's just all a practice thing. So yeah, definitely notice the difference.
now when you were coming up towards the end, when you were ready to release the project, were you fighting the urge of going back and like not fixing some of the older songs, but just kind of reworking them to kind of so they're a little bit more up to par with what you're doing, not like the songs that you wrote like in 2020, 2021, 2020. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, I did. There was some bits I had adjusted because they like not all the songs were the exact way I wrote them at the
Mm.
age, but they were the general gist of it was right. But there was a few tweaks here and there, like there was a couple lines I adjusted because naturally when you're 14 and when you're 23, you're gonna feel a bit different. So
Yeah.
I adjusted some of that, and then yeah, just with all of them, if I didn't feel like I related to it as much anymore, like but only like a couple sections, like the general vibe of it, like the choruses and all
Yeah.
that was still the same.
Yeah, you fix some like structural issues or like if some words kind of fit weird. Is that
Yeah, yeah. Or somewhere I was like, "Oh, I could say that better." Like it could describe it in a better way, and I
yeah,
changed like a couple words here and there, but for the most part it was how it was originally.
nice. Because so is it you tried to make it a little bit more confined? Is that kind like more what I don't know what the word is I want to use. Like yeah, I don't know, like you want to make it as streamlined as possible. That's the word I want to use.
Yeah, just like to match all the others and to have the same sort of vibe on them
Mhm.
because especially like the earlier ones had a sort of different vibe, but when I
Mhm.
tweaked them a bit, they sort of fit together with the rest of the songs properly. And yeah,
Without compromising the original intent of the song.
yeah,
No.
exactly. Like it still has the same message, but there was just a little bit, added to make it so it has the same,
Yeah, I got
the
you.
same vibe. Yeah.
For sure. So the album's out now. It's up on Spotify. Anybody that's listening, we'll have the Spotify link in our in the description of the podcast. Where are you kind of at right now? Are you already looking at the next project, or are you kind of 100% focused on promoting Purple Walls and giving it the best chance to do its thing?
Yeah, well, I had my album launch in April, so I did a big show for it. So that was exciting. I haven't started to record anything for the next project, but I've definitely got things in mind. But I'm just kind of letting it sit for a while because often, you don't want to do anything too quickly because you don't want to take it, away from the first one. But yeah, definitely got things in mind, but haven't started recording or anything like that yet.
So you're basically just kind of are you writing or are you just kind of like percolating ideas and then you'll kind of start that process later on?
Oh yeah, I have an idea. Like I know what it'll be called and everything. And then I've written some songs, but it's more like in the beginning process and stuff. Like some of the songs had already been written before the first album, but they didn't quite go for this one. So there's
Mhm.
some that'll be put onto this one, and then a few new ones that I've written since I've released that album. And yeah,
Nice.
so it'll just be a mix of that. Yeah.
Nice. Have you found that it's becoming easier to write music now that you've kind of got that first, because the first project you have music spanning 7, 8, 9 years that just kind of
Yeah.
been sitting there. Do you find it's now easier to write music that all this other music is out?
Oh, yeah, I don't know, I mean, I guess it just depends what's going on in my life because
Mm,
most of the songs I write are about my life
mm,
experiences, so it's depends on what's going on, but yeah, I don't know, it feels weird, yeah, I guess because they were sitting there for so long waiting to be released, so
mhm.
now that they're out there, I'm like, you know, what songs will be next kind of thing, so it's yeah, because I always knew they would be the next ones, so then it's to decide which ones will come out next, and
Sure.
yeah, so
Nice. How's shows been going? You'd mentioned April, you had your album release show. How often have you been playing shows this year?
Oh, yeah, it's been a bit quieter at the moment, because of winter. The
Mm,
winter months usually dies down a bit, but, yeah, in the beginning part of the year, it was doing the regular shows and then had my album launch, like I said, and yeah, so at the moment, it's just me like, I just went on holidays and then
mhm.
yeah, so it's just a bit more of a, quiet month at the moment. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Is that pretty standard across the board in Australia that like the winter months things kind of tend to slow down for most musicians?
Oh, well, there is still the occasional gig, but it's not as consistent,
Mm,
whereas in the summertime and stuff like that, it's much more like a lot of venues do more live music at the
mm.
time, but yeah, winter, there's still, the occasional one, but it's not as busy.
Gotcha. Because where I'm at, there's gigs all year long. Like the only time that it slows down is like the week of Christmas, and that's
Oh,
just kind of
wow.
that's just kind of depending on when Christmas falls. Now you'll notice like a change of what type of gigs you're getting because it during the summer you're getting all kinds of gigs. You'll get solo acoustic gigs. You'll get full band gigs because venues are putting you outside, like they'll have a patio or whatever.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
then
Same.
then during the winter they're putting you inside. So if you've got a big band, you've got to find a way to strip it down, and you're either doing an acoustic set or if the venue's lucky enough to have a stage inside, but
Yeah,
those aren't
yeah,
always too,
definitely.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
no, so that's cool. I'm glad that you've got the full project out. We had started talking like, has it, have we been talking since April about trying to get this podcast scheduled? Has it been since?
Yeah, it was because I went to, the Taylor Swift concert the
Yeah,
day after I released my album, and then I got COVID, so
yeah.
I did that's yeah, and then we've been trying to work out a time, but it hadn't quite aligned since then.
I don't ever remember the time difference being this hard. But then again, the to be honest with you, it was during COVID, so time didn't exist.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's like, oh, you want to do a podcast at 2 in the morning? Okay, that's cool. Just roll out of bed, do the podcast, and go back to bed. You know?
Yeah, that's true, and I think it was different because you were doing, like, the fundraiser thing, so you
Yeah,
were already doing the night like, the whole night one, so it was easier because you were staying up all night to do that anyway.
yeah. During our first podcast, yeah, that was definitely the case. But like early on during the pandemic, when I was doing it, I feel like if I did something at 7:30 or 8 o'clock p.m. my time, most musicians were just kind of like, okay, cool, let's do it. But then I realized it was during the pandemic. None of us were doing anything anyway. So
Everyone was just living on, I don't know what sleep and just hanging at home anyway, so there's nowhere anyone had to be.
yeah, for sure. So you'd mentioned that you're kind of playing around with the ideas for the next project. Do you have any shows coming up, or are you pretty much done for the next couple of months as far as shows?
Oh, well, I've got the regular, like, gigs at restaurants and
Mm,
different things like that, but no, like, shows, like, similar
yeah.
to the album show. But yeah, hopefully get to do another band show or something soon.
Nice. Are the restaurant shows, is that just like a cover gig where they pay you to be like background noise at a restaurant?
Yeah, that sort of thing, because I do acoustic ones there, and I throw in some acoustic, like some covers as well, and covers and originals. But yeah,
Mhm.
mainly a covers one. Yeah.
Nice. Tho- those gigs are always really interesting to me because it's like I get the idea because it's like, okay, you're there to kind of set the vibe, but as a musician, it'd be like nobody's listening to me, so let's just have fun with this. Let's figure out a way to make it fun for me. Yeah. So
Yeah, definitely. It's always, you never know what you're gonna get with gigs like that. It's always, not knowing what to expect.
right, right. Oh, so outside of music, you'd mentioned you just got engaged not too long ago, and so
Yeah.
congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
What have you been getting into outside of music? Like, what do you when you do have kind of time to yourself? What do you like to do?
Oh well, I just went on holidays, and then I like to go to concerts and yeah, just I don't know, the regular things, movies, you know,
Nice,
go to the beach sometimes, things like that, just the regular things.
sweet. What's the last concert you went to that wasn't like you or your friends?
Yeah, it was Taylor Swift when
Okay,
I went in February. It was the day after I released the album, so it's very exciting.
nice. I've had a lot of people on the podcast that have either went to some version of the Eras Tour show wherever they were at, and some people that are dying to go but can't
I
because
know.
you know.
Yeah, it was a battle to get those tickets. I think I was on there for about 7 or 8 hours waiting, and then I finally got them, but yeah, it was not easy.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But you enjoyed the show. It was a good time.
Oh, yeah, it was everything. It was so good. But now she's added the new album to the Eras tour, and it's like I wanted to see that one too. It's just like I was hoping she'd come back, but I think she's finishing soon, so I don't think she'll be coming back to Australia for this one.
One thing about musicians is if something's making money, they're not going to give up on it.
That's true, and she's making a lot of money on this
Yeah.
one for sure. So yeah, but she said she is finishing in December because she has been going for like I think since March last year. So it's
Fair.
been a long tour for sure.
Fair. There so when I was in college, um I went to a Metallica concert and they were on their like Death Magnetic tour, and it was
Yeah,
just it's a similar situation where I think they'd been going for like 9 months at that point when I finally got to see them, and they were coming up to the end of their tour, but then they realized that they were making so much money that they extended it out for like another 2 years or something.
I think I'd heard about that. I think mum and dad went to that tour also,
Yeah,
and yeah, I remember hearing that it was like a really long tour as well.
it's just one of those things when something's working, keep going. Like I mean,
Exactly.
you don't want to overextend it, but yeah,
Yeah. But I imagine Taylor Swift would be tired though, because it's such a long show that she does and doing the whole performing all the time and doing it all the time. She must be very tired.
oh yeah, for sure. And plus all the traveling she does, and now she's got a very public relationship, and it's like even for her that's got to be a bit much.
And then all the albums, how she's been doing them, like, and I mean, as much as obviously I love her releasing all the new songs and stuff, like she should, I feel like, have a break for herself to just, because I feel like she hasn't had a break for at least I don't know 5 or so years now.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I it's a grind, but like I mean she's finally in this situation now where she's out of her original record deal contract where they were taking all, like I mean I'm sure you've seen all that stuff kind of come to play, but yeah.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been crazy.
So, uh, so if anybody wants to check out your music, any of that fun stuff, where's the best place to find you?
So I'm on all Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, and all the other mainstream platforms, just as Shayla K. And I've got my debut album plus the singles on there.
Awesome, awesome. And just a reminder, we will have Shayla's Spotify link and all that stuff in the description. So if you're listening on Spotify, it's just below the or in the description. So go ahead and give that a check, and check you out on social, all that fun stuff. And I want to thank you so much for taking time to sit down and chat with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will catch you all later.